Hello, chat. I am back. I have returned. I am no longer dying. I have taken a thorough course of steroids and antibiotics or whatever they're called. I'm not a scientist. And I'm back. I'm feeling much better. I may have a little bit of a lingering cough every now and again, but I am back. So thanks to everybody for holding down the fort without me last week. But I have returned. Uh, yeah. Oh no, steroids. You must have been very sick. Yeah, I mean, you guys watch the show. You know that I've had like a lingering cough for several weeks, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. This thing's gonna go away eventually. And then I woke up on Saturday morning, or I guess I don't know, sometime last weekend, and I was just dead. And I was like, oh no, I think it's getting worse. And my wife was like, you need to go see a doctor. You do not look good. And so we went in, and I had like a bronchitis, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, you don't look good at all." So they just had to get me on some steroids and antibiotics to feel better. So anyway, I'm back. I'm feeling much better, and it seems like most people are also feeling much better. So we're just being a little bit chill on the show today because we do have a patch coming out tomorrow morning. Should be out by 9 o'clock Eastern time is kind of the time we like to give. Might be up a little bit earlier than that, might be up slightly later than that, but usually around 9 o'clock Eastern time, we're good to go with a lot of exciting stuff. And I work in vet med, and a common refrain is no patient should die without steroids. Okay, well, it's good to know. So we've got full patch note review today. Just to go through everything that's coming in tomorrow. And then I'm just here to take some questions and, see what's happened in the week since I've been here actively. So let me find my buttons here for the handy dandy desktop. There we go. This is live now on the website. You might need to type in this URL to get to it. So it's, I think Buddha posted it in chat. So it is in chat if you scroll up a little bit. And we'll talk through all the stuff that's coming tomorrow. The biggest thing, of course, Morgan Le Fay. Are you guys excited for Morgan Le Fay? Because when we did the player survey in December, Morgan Le Fay astonished us with how much people really wanted to get her in the game. So we really prioritized to get her in as soon as we could, and hopefully everybody's excited about it. I'm going to scroll down here. So Morgan Le Fay is a magical damage dealer. She scales off of intelligence. And she does the things that she did in Smite 1 mostly, the things that are worth keeping in mind as you're playing her or going up against her. Her passive has been updated now to give you permanent stacks of intelligence when you get to all 5 symbols. So you want to go through that loop a little bit more often, maybe than you did in Smite 1. You want to make sure that you're getting all 5 stacks of your passive to get that free permanent intelligence. Because you'll get 20, 30 intelligence or more over the course of a game. It's kind of a free item if you're doing it right. So it's a fun little thing to play around with. Additionally, there's been some +1s to the 3. So now when you hit, apparently this ability just does a ton of things. I was watching the videos from last week and cutting them up into shorts, and Clumsy was like, "This is one of the longest ability descriptions I've ever worked on." I was like, "That's interesting." But the interesting bit here that you should know is that your attacks now will cause your 3 to kind of have a little AoE explosion around the person. So if you 3 somebody, you get the Shroud of Wildfire on them, and then you can keep attacking them, they're going to kind of explode with damage a little bit every time you attack them. So try and weave in some auto attacks after you get your 3 on them. Ultimate's basically the same as it always was. But this aspect coming out on Friday is quite spicy. This turns Morgan Le Fay into a melee bruiser. Her basic attacks are now melee, and she gets a new ultimate treatment, which is kind of like the classic Arthurian build up Wrath and get different ultimates. So on your small ult, which you get at 40 Wrath, you're going to have a cone, which absorbs all the sigils and deals damage. And at full Wrath, you're going to get a triple dash. So that damage dealing dash really will allow you to maneuver more in fights as a melee damage dealer and just have a lot of fun. Also worth mentioning, your sigil mastery, now fires all 3 sigils at the same time in a Venn diagram of doom. So if you want to be able to do all 3 things at once, you gotta play the aspect. It's pretty fun. Also, you're going to deal max health percentage damage on your 3 explosions, because why not? So this is very fun. It's fun to play as. It's actually pretty fun to play against as well. And I think that people are going to be excited to see Morgan Le Fay in the game tomorrow morning. We also have some new Wandering Market Travelers in this update. These are part of the Reign of the Archfiend event, so if you've already bought all, you will get these tomorrow. We have Midnight Glamour Neath, which comes with the prisms and the Glamorous badge, which I'm supposed to spell out and sing, but I'm not going to. And then the Yandroid, or Jandroid, chat. Do we have a firm decision on that? I know this is kind of like a GIF, YIF kind of thing, but yeah, Jandroid Janus is coming out with 3 new prisms: the Punkbot, the Overgrown, and the PAL, as well as the Portal Technology Jump Stamp. Jandroid with a J, chat is saying. Not Yanandroid. Okay, well, I will try and say Jandroid then. Thank you, chat. There's also a new reward traveler as part of this. So Mordred will be getting the Grove-bound skin, which comes with the Lantana. I think that's kind of flower, but I don't know how to say it. Nightshade and Oleander prism. Oleanders, very common in the part of California I'm from, so part of my youth. Also, noting that Divine Legacy skins are getting... should have put this under a different category. Sorry. We are removing the classic category from these Divine Legacy skins because we never really sold them as classic skins, and I think it was just kind of a miscategorization. So we're going to reclassify them and make it clear that they're not just classic skins that are going to be available in the classic skin chest at some point. We are going to, at some point, price these for direct purchase for people that want to get them, but we are going to price them at a higher price because they were, limited or not limited. We don't like limited things. They were rarer reward skins, and people wouldn't put in work to get them. So we want to make sure that, it's not like I feel like my time playing Smite 1 is rewarded with a classic skin that I can get for, a few legacy gems. So hopefully this feels appropriate. Can you view these patch notes yourself right now? You can. This URL is live. And I believe it is pinned in the chat if you are watching on Twitch, which I think everybody is because I think we're only streaming on Twitch right now. Quality of life. Multi-queue will be coming as part of this update. So you can specifically choose if you want to, multi-queue 2.0, as we should say, because we had the single button that lets you queue for all of the modes previously. Well, now you can pick and choose which modes you want to queue for. You can queue for Conquest, Arena, Joust, or Assault, and some mixture of those. So if you want to pick your favorite modes and don't care exactly which modes you get, but you want to get the best match you can as quick as possible, highly recommend multi-queue. It's a good feature. Even from our limited early multi-queue, we saw that it was improving match quality and match queue time in all regions. In addition, as part of this, we are going to be changing the queue list for specific regions to further emphasize, finding matches quickly that are good. North America and Europe, all queues are visible. No queue is marked as recommended. In LATAM South, we will remove Assault as a direct queue, and multi-queue will be marked as recommended. In Oceania, we're removing Assault and Arena. Multi-queue is marked as recommended. In Japan and in LATAM North, removed all queues except for multi-queue. Multi-queue is marked as recommended. And really, this is intended to kind of kickstart those arenas, kickstart those regions, make sure that they're constantly finding matches and that those matches are of as highest quality as they can. We will always, revisit the queue list where we can and expand it if it makes sense. But we think this is going to be better for making sure people aren't just waiting in queue forever trying to find a match, which was happening with some of those queues previously. We have updated the God screen in this update, so it now reflects whether gods deal physical or magical damage, and there is a new option to use small icons instead of portraits, which some people were really asking for. So hopefully it makes it easier to manage the screen. I know when we only had like 20 gods, it was easy to navigate, but now that we've got like 70 something, it's quite full. We've added new buttons to the out-of-game escape menu to link you to support and to report a bug. So we did this because we always look through, it's what we do is, I don't want to say it's hard, but we work in a very public, community-facing way, and we get a ton of comments, good and bad, about the game at all times. And one of the things that we do is we look at all of the, reviews that we get on Steam or on, Xbox or whatever, and we see what kind of things people are saying are going well and are going poorly. And one of the things that we noticed was that we were seeing more negative reviews mentioning support and report a bug, and not being able to report bugs than we expected. And so we figured there must be something wrong with this process. So this is kind of a first step to try and make this a little bit easier to understand. Reading Steam reviews, yikes. Yeah, I mean, like there's always going to be there's valuable stuff in there. There's also people that are just going to post dumb stuff. But we try and analyze and find what are the things that we can improve on, because our goal should always be to get better. Basically, we want to make sure it's easier to figure out how to do this. We're also trying to make our support site easier to use. We're not all the way there yet, but we are aware and we're working on that. Once you go to the support website, you need to click the chat icon in the bottom right of the screen to start a conversation with an agent. We're trying to have that start opened or more easy to see, because too many people are not noticing that they need to click that to do that. Here, I'll go to the website real quick just so you all can see. support.hirezstudios.com/ Okay, so this is our support website. We changed this to be bright yellow to make it a little more obvious that this is what you need to do. But you need to click on this if you want to actually open a ticket or start questions. I would love if this just started open, but we have not gotten that done yet. But I should hide my cameras so people can see. Yeah, so down here, this is what you need to click on. We wrote it up here as well, just so people know. But yeah, you need to click on this. And then there are a few basic questions, which if you are a computery person, you're like, oh my God, why are they asking me these questions? But the reason why every IT person on the planet says, have you tried turning it off and back on again, before they actually try and troubleshoot you further, is because most people don't try the basic stuff, and trying this basic stuff really does solve the vast majority of tickets. If you reach a dead end, you can open a ticket via the chat, and it doesn't take very long to get to a dead end once you click through, and it's a pretty easy, straightforward process. We are trying to change it to, again, so it's just still easier to get to once you get to that point. And one thing that I'm talking with our support people about is to keep in mind that we will contact you about your ticket via email. We get a lot of people that are angry that they never get a reply, and they actually come back and file like another follow-up ticket, but they have not checked their emails, and they just never saw the email. So we do reply. Please look at your email if you put in a support ticket, and we will get back to you with that. So hopefully that's a little bit easier to understand. Gameplay. This is one that I think is actually a big change, but y'all probably didn't even notice that this was happening, because I didn't until recently. But when you were previously banished, feared, mesmerized, polymorphed, displaced, or taunted, you weren't getting feedback that you couldn't cast abilities. You weren't getting the sound. You weren't getting the X over your abilities. And that has been changed with this update. So now it should be a lot easier to understand, like, why are my abilities not going off? What's going on? Why can't I do anything? It's because you have one of these status effects on you, most likely, and now we'll better communicate that to you. We've also fixed an issue that could sometimes cause crowd control immunity glow to stick around. There may be other things, but just as mentioning that here. The role-specific pass. This is a big change, chat. If you've been watching this, then if you've been watching the show before, then you will understand. But basically, we're changing it so that in Conquest, you're going to get a specific buff based on what role you are assigned to by the game when you load into the lobby. If you trade roles, then that will trade, but it's meant to be for that specific role. The main reason why we've done this is because we wanted to make sure that support and jungle were getting the things that they need to actually do the role, not tied to a specific starter item, but instead just tied to that role in general. And those roles don't necessarily, those roles don't work very well without this feature. So by doing this, it will open it up so they can pick a lot more new starter items, have a lot more diversity there, and we'll have fewer games that are just like lost because the support did not buy a support starter, or the jungle did not buy a jungle starter. Now you will be able to jungle, you'll be able to clear, and it will not. You won't have that issue anymore. Same thing. You will be able to get some gold and sustain as a support, regardless of what starter you go. So hopefully that should help. The ones that are for solo, mid, and carry, they're a lot smaller. They're a lot less impactful, and they're supposed to be, because we don't. The goal of these aren't to drastically change the game. The goal of these is primarily to help support and jungle, and then expand what's possible in other roles. So we've also made some updates to role starter items as a result of this. So Selflessness now has 40 extra max health, but it doesn't grant the stuff that's tied to the support role anymore. It now requires level 20 to upgrade. This is a big one to note. Heroism is better, gives you more protections, more health. War Flag, we have decreased the max health, so you do not get max health from War Flag, but increased the attack speed from 0 to 15%, and it no longer grants the support kind of buffs, and it now requires level 20 to upgrade. So this is more of a attack speed item now versus a health item, and maybe more, more bruisery characters would really benefit from this. So it's kind of an interesting new twist on it. The jungle items don't have the jungle buff anymore, but they do something a little bit different. So Bumba's Golden Dagger now triggers bonus damage on enemy hit rather than just jungle monsters. So it has a little more utility if you want to use it in lane. Bumba's Spear now has increased attack speed and increased bonus damage percentage. And again, this is not just to jungle monsters now. And then Bumba's Cudgel has similar upgrades, and Bumba's Hammer has similar upgrades. So you can read through all these for the full details. The other big change here that's maybe even bigger is that all of the starters are now adaptive. So you can now really pick and choose any item, regardless of whether you're trying to scale off of strength or intelligence. It's not like I can only build Vampiric Shroud if I'm being an int character. Now it's like you can build it on a strength character, which is really interesting. I was building, I played Discordia Aspect in our playtest this morning, and I was picking a starter that used to be a strength starter, and now it was giving me int, so it was very cool. The TLDR on all these, same thing. They're now going to provide adaptive stats rather than a single type of scaling. And there's a few other changes. The Cowl now will provide movement speed when near a god in addition to previous effects, and it will now provide attack speed when alone in addition to its previous effects. So that's a little bit of a change. Archmage's Gem now has strength scaling for the damage that it deals, so if you are scaling off of strength, it will deal damage off of that. Pendulum of the Ages now has strength scaling for the available mana, so once again, you're going to get benefit of that if you're going strength. Warrior's Axe has a little bit extra strength on it, so keep that in mind. Bluestone Pendant has less regen on it, so we think Bluestone's probably going to be pretty good. We'll see how things work out here, but you are going to get less regen out of it than you used to get. Same with Bluestone Brooch. And a little bit more base attack damage on Gilded Arrow, a little bit more damage and attack speed on Sharpshooter Arrow, and the plus 10% attack damage now scales based on distance, maxing out at 6 meters away. So you don't have to be at that threshold to get the value. You'll get some value of it even if people are closer. And that is it for the starter item updates. Next, we have game modes. So Arena is getting completely updated with new lighting and materials. It looks very nice. Hopefully you all saw it on PTS. If not, we do have a short up of it. We looked at it on the stream last week, and we will be shipping it tomorrow. So check it out once it's live and let us know what you think. We were just talking this morning about what maps we're going to work on next and what our next priorities are. So I think that this has gone over really well. I think that it's continuing to make the game better, and hopefully y'all are appreciating that. In Assault, meditation will no longer be canceled by hard CC. So keep that in mind for all of you Assault lovers out there. Bug fixes. The Titan minimap icons were not accurately reflecting their health. That has been updated. We fixed a case where teleporting out of base would instantly transport players to their destination. We fixed an issue where the Titan could leash if its target was sent through a Janus portal. We fixed several spots on the Conquest map boundary where Mordred could get stuck while using his ultimate. In jungle practice, the essential item store is now disabled in jungle practice. It was causing issues with abilities. We fixed toggle aspect, causing disconnects in customs. We fixed the DPS totem not spawning on map load. We fixed the NPC cycler prompt, showing the next NPC instead of the current. And we fixed the nearby fountain not enabled by default. And we removed the toggle global item shop interactable. Lots of additional updates there to jungle practice. A lot of God adjustments here as well. I didn't actually see these on Friday, so this is my first time seeing these because I was out sick on Friday. So Achilles is getting a buff. He is going to get extra shield, quite a bit of extra shield on his 2. Aphrodite is getting a buff. She's going to have extra slow on her 2 and decreased cooldown on her lovebirds. Awelish is getting a buff. She's going to do more damage on her feather step, decreased cooldown on Moonlight Charge, and increased damage on her ult. Baron Samity's getting a buff, my boy. Increased health per level, increased damage on his rapid up, which is, this is base damage, not scaled damage. And this is on the tick damage as well as the explosion damage. And life of the party, his ultimate is going down to 90-second cooldown at max rank. Chiron's getting nerfed. His passive is going to give a little bit less strength and a little bit less intelligence. And his masterful shot is going to have a little bit of a longer cooldown at lower ranks. Daji is getting a shift. She's going to do a little bit less damage per tick on her 1 and a little bit less damage scaling per tick on her 2. And her 3 is going to give her a little bit more attack speed, so in the aspect form. So that's an interesting little twist there. Eset's getting nerfed. She's going to have a little bit less damage scaling on her 1 and a little bit more cooldown at low ranks on her 1 and a little bit less movement speed. So a lot of changes there to the 1 to be a little bit less powerful. Hercules is getting a buff. He's going to get more protections per level from his passive, and he's going to get increased protections from items, increased scaling off of protections from items on his mitigate wounds. Hu Yi, we have once again attempted to fix the issue where you couldn't hit him when he was, like, basically it would look like he had taken off, or it looked like you had stunned him, but he was actually in midair. We think we've actually fixed this now, so he should now remain hittable for 0.1667 seconds when initially cast. We have fixed an issue where this would also not go on cooldown when Awelish pulled this leap. So both of those should be fixed. You should now be able to do that properly. Loki, his decoy was causing issues with knockups or odd interactions with dashes when attached to an ally on the aspect. So we fixed that. Neja, we have increased the subsequent bounce damage for the universe ring toss, and you can now see how long you have left to refire the caught ring on the ability icon. We have increased the attack speed, so more attack speed at low ranks. We have increased the base damage on his 3 by quite a bit, actually. And for the aspect, we have increased the damage converted to heal. We no longer consume your righteous spirit to heal on the 2, and now as a baseline heal. And we fixed an issue where this wouldn't trigger items like regrowth traders. And then Scylla is getting a buff. Her Sikkim is going to deal increased damage, and her Sentinel is going to have increased damage. I believe that's the auto attack after you Sentinel. Sobek is getting a buff. He's going to have increased damage or increased protections on his passive. And each stack now provides cooldown rate. That's interesting. And his ult is going down from 100 seconds to 90 seconds. Sylvanas is getting a fix where his 1 could be deployed in walls. It can no longer be deployed in walls. And Uller is getting a nerf, thank God. His 3 on his bow stance is going to have 15% less scaling, and his 3 on his axe stance is going to have less physical protection debuff. Other changes in this update, the bunch of item adjustments. Adaptive items will now try and use the scaling tag of the god when choosing between strength or intelligence. So previously, it tried to prioritize strength if they were both equal and you had to have an int item. Now you don't necessarily need to do that. Like if you're Cuckoo, you can start with a mana item and an adaptive starter, and that's totally fine. If a god is tagged as hybrid scaling, it will default to strength, which is the current behavior. If a god is tagged as int scaling but has built strength, it will choose strength once it is higher than intelligence. Death Metal. This item is pretty fun. It no longer will grant a buff to nearby allies, and it no longer grants yourself attack speed. Instead, it sets your intelligence to 0 and provides 66% of that lost intelligence as strength for the buff duration and gives you 20% critical strike chance. So basically, you dump your kit, push Death Metal, and then just start bashing them. It's pretty fun. So I'm excited to see how this item is actually utilized. Do gods that swap scaling on aspect account for this change? I don't. For this, I believe so, but I'm not sure. Bracer of the Abyss buff be getting 15 more intelligence, so quite a bit more intelligence. Brawler's Beatstick is getting a nerf because it was doing a lot. Rod of Asclepius is getting a buff, more intelligence, less mana cost. Shield Splitter is getting a buff, more protections. Triton's Conch is getting a nerf, less base strength and intelligence. That was doing a lot. And relic upgrades. Time Lock Aegis is getting less stats from items and less magical and physical protections. And Blinking Abyss is going to get you less power and less stats per items and decreased cooldown reduction from damaging an enemy god. So a little bit of nerf there. And we got a bunch of bug fixes in this update too. The Danza Sake taunt will no longer cause the camera to go crazy. Aspect Apollo 1 targeter will now show up when he has a free cast stack. There was an issue that would cause crowd control immunity to stick around, which we think we fixed. God models should load in the lobby for real this time, we think. Additional cases where you could become unable to click on items in the in-game store should be fixed. Controller players can now select their aspect after trading gods. We got that fixed. Colorblind UI treatment for Arena Minotaurs now works. Stars will now properly tile for God Mastery. They were previously kind of oddly positioned. We talked about the Huyi stuff already. Bots can now be knocked up and knocked back properly. So Hercules will work against bots, which is great. And the balls will no longer show up around Newt and Artemis when they should not. That's a lot of stuff, guys. A lot of stuff. We go back to, me and Manny. That's all coming out tomorrow. So tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Eastern or so, we will have that live on the servers for y'all to play with. Can't wait to see how people experiment with the new starters and the new role passives and everything. And I'm curious to see how the meta shakes up. So, oh man, how long has it been since the last update again? Thanks for reminding me, Anomoli. It has been 2 weeks since our last update. I'm still astonished how much stuff we get done in 2 weeks. Mithari is happy because the stars won't be lopsided anymore. I think it's going to be a good update. Did I have a nice weekend? I had an acceptable weekend. I've been sick, so I didn't really do too much. I mostly just sat at home and laid in front of the TV. Watched some Olympics. That was good. My 1-year-old broke my glasses, so I don't know if you can tell they are taped together while I wait for new glasses. That was basically my weekend. My friend is quite silent. Yeah, that's Manny. Manny, he's more of a thinker than a talker, but he might have something to add later. Do I know when the Janus Mirrodin bug will be fixed? I don't know what the Janus Mirrodin bug is, but let me know and I'll write it down and I can see. Has this room always been order and chaos themed? No, one of the lights actually just kind of changes whenever we make too much noise. So it just is very well themed today. A lot of people miss Neja's old voice pack. Are there plans to add a skin that uses his old voice? Maybe eventually. Not right now, but maybe eventually. When you mirrored in and double 2 on Yanis, the second 2 doesn't deal full damage. Okay. I'll write that down. Janus 2. And other people may know that already. I just didn't know that one. Okay, got it. The new arena is darker. Does that mean the nighttime items work there? No, they do not. It is just regular items that doesn't have the day-night cycle stuff. When is the next roadmap? Next roadmap will probably be after Gilgamesh, would be my guess. So we have Morgan Le Fay, we have Charon, we have Gilgamesh, and then we haven't told you guys what's after that. So probably around then. When is Smite 2 mobile? Kidding, but imagine. I saw somebody say that they play Smite on their iPad using some streaming thing while they're like running on their treadmill. And I was like, dude, that's like next level science. I don't know. We don't have a mobile version planned, but apparently there's some way that you can stream the game to your iPad. And yeah, I saw a Reddit thread about it. On the Reign of the Archfiends event tab, it shows shows on the left at the bottom the number of travelers you currently have out of 10, but however, it shows 9 traveler cards. So is it 9 or 10? Is it a typo or is one missing? I think that it's 9 travelers, but one of the travelers is going to have 2 skins in it. It's going to be like a double traveler. So it's 10 skins, 9 travelers, I believe, is the way that that's structured. Any word on new maps? I'm getting questions about lots of new maps. No. Arena has the update in this update. It's going to be a little while before we have any more map updates after this because kind of all the easy, quote unquote, easy low hanging fruit is done. We're working on new stuff, but I would say it's probably gonna be a little while before we get more map updates after this because there's just bigger arcs of work to get done. Can we make the AoE to attach aspect Loki 2 the same as raw aspect 3? I can easily attach raws, but Loki's always gives me trouble. It would be interesting to know if you have more feedback on why, because I think it should be basically the same, but there might be something that we missed. So any more feedback would be great. We can definitely take a look at it. Did we experiment with matchmaking again? In the last few days, I'm getting a lot of new players on my team, which is exhausting, getting snowballed because the other team has a full squad of experienced players. I don't believe we've made any big changes to matchmaking recently. Pawn does constantly have like smaller tests running, but I haven't seen anything running in Conquest recently. Most of the experiments we've been running have been more in Assault. So I will say we have been seeing more new players recently. So it's possible also we just, you've had more players that have kind of risen up into your elo range, and that's, kind of a good thing. Although I'm sorry if, they are making it harder to win your games. Has a new god been canceled? No, we're still working on classic gods right now because that's been what the community has been asking for first and foremost. We'll get back around to new gods at some point. We have a couple new gods that are in various states of development that we may come back to one of those. We might do a completely new one. We just haven't confirmed exactly what we're doing other than the classic gods. How do I feel about the game hitting a new player peak every Sunday? Okay, so I'm going to be very, overly cautious about this. I would say it feels great, right? It feels good when there are publicly visible things that show that, hey, the path that we're on is working. Like slow and steady wins the race, brick by brick. We're going to make this game better. People are noticing that's getting better. They're playing the game more, right? But in the same moment where people are like, oh, this is so great, we're hitting new peaks every weekend, right? As soon as we don't hit a peak one weekend, then players are going to say, oh, game's dead. What they're doing isn't working anymore, right? So it's kind of normal that things go through ups and downs, right? At some point, we will certainly have a little bit of a downward turn. I think there's a new WoW expansion coming out pretty soon, and those usually have an impact on us. So, hey, maybe even when the new WoW expansion comes out next week, we'll be down a little bit and not hit another peak, right? But what we need to look at on our side is more like the overall trend of how things are going, and less the specific, did we hit a peak this day or this week, right? And what we're seeing on our side is that, yeah, things are going in the right direction, right? All of our metrics seem like they're getting better and better and better. Seems like people are happy with the game and like the direction that we're going in. We feel good about the path that we're on. We're not Fortnite. We're not the biggest game in the world or anything, but we feel like the people that play the game really like it, and we are growing it in a sensible way. And hopefully we just kind of keep going, and maybe one day we are huge. But if all we do is be an awesome game for the next decade for everybody that loves the game, then hey, we're successful. Early access is Thursday, Friday for WoW. Yeah, I'm not a WoW player anymore, but I do know there's a lot of historically there was a lot of crossover between Smite and WoW. Can I drop off a case of a Lonnie when I drive by the studio in October to see Five Finger Death Punch? Um, appreciate the offer. You don't need to drop by a Lonnie or anything. We're good. We got a lot of Lonnie to drink. But enjoy the show. Um, am I going to play Slay the Spire 2? Probably. It's a good game. Um, can work be done on Divine Legacy and Smite 1? I've heard it no longer progresses. Is that true? I believe it should still be working. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing broken about it. You do have to be linked and go through all that process, which is more difficult than it should be. But if you're linked and you log into Smite, then you log into Smite 2, you should still be making progress, is my understanding. How's Isaiah doing? Last I talked to him, he was doing well. He's working on the Invincible fighting game, and still living in the area, doing good. Did I watch the gold medal hockey game? I watched the first like period, and then my daughter really wanted to watch Daniel Tiger, so we watched some Daniel Tiger instead. What past employee do I keep in contact with the most? Probably people that you guys don't know. There's a lot of like more like publishing side people that I, was very close with that I talk to a lot. But yeah, probably people that you don't know. Is there another Saga skin and bundle planned for when this current event ends? So I can say right when this event ends, we will not immediately have another Saga because we hadn't started on the next Saga because we weren't sure how well this event was going to do, and we didn't want to overcommit to this buy all plus Saga format if it was something that people didn't like and it didn't work out for us. But it did work out well. So we definitely want to do that again. We're probably just going to have another, like a smaller event between Saga events where we'll probably give you guys the option to buy all the content that we release for a period of time as a buy all with the discount because we think that worked. But it probably just won't have a Saga that's tied to it because we just won't have a Saga done yet. So we'll have just like kind of a brief period between these Saga events, but then we'll have another Saga event. A lot of people wanting sagas for various characters. Is there any chance that a classic god might be completely left out of Smite 2? I would say that's not really the way that we're thinking right now, where we would just not do a god at all. I think there are some gods that we feel like probably need more of an update than others. Or maybe they just people aren't going to be that excited to see them unless there's more of a change, which does kind of put them in a weird place where it's like, are they worth doing? But I think as of right now, everybody's still on the table. It just may mean that like they're deprioritized unless we think of a good idea to change them. We can leave out Marty. Yeah, I don't know. I still think Marticarus was a cool idea. I think it's just there were a few things about it that made it not land the way that it should have. But it was we tried to get that god done in too short of a time. It was just a very, very shortened development period for him, and then like I think also the player reaction to Marticarus being the name of the character, I think that was more negative than I initially had expected. Would we consider moving or Asian servers from Japan to Singapore to centralize better? Historically, Smite had a sizable player base in India and Southeast Asia, and Japan servers are not optimal. I can ask. I have no idea what's better or worse. But yeah, I can ask. Since the five new gods are popular community choices, will we get an unpopular one anytime soon? I will say we don't always do. We aren't only doing the most popular gods. We did prioritize some relatively popular ones here. We actually didn't like. Not everyone is the absolute top in popularity for their role, but they were all like right up there, and they fit together in a way that we could get them all done together. But yeah, we're definitely going to have some less popular gods coming this year. Are we going to have the least popular god in the game? Maybe not. But we I do know that we're working on some gods that are not at the absolute top of the priority list. But we think still either add something interesting to the game or they're a god that we want to revisit for a certain reason. So. AMC chat. Yeah, I miss AMC. He's fun. Is Kuzenbo popular? Kuzenbo's relatively popular. Uh, is there a way that we can add chat to console similar to how PC players can type? Yeah, we have to go through full console certification to get approval to do this because it is cross-platform chat. And unfortunately, that means that we can't update the game for probably about at least 2 weeks, but probably realistically about a month. And so we will not be doing that until we get closer to like a 1.0 release because we're going to have to go through the certification at that point anyway. Something I'd love to have in now, but we just aren't allowed to do it. We haven't asked about Paul Bunyan and Robin Hood in a while. It has been a while. Yeah, I think that like those are all interesting ideas. There's so many good ideas for gods and legends and myths that would be fun to fit into Smite. I think there is always the question of like where do you draw the line personally? I think some people think that Paul Bunyan or Johnny Appleseed or whatever is totally fine. Other people are like, I don't know, that's kind of weird. Vafi in chat says, I genuinely think Dracula should be considered. And that's definitely been one that's come up a lot, right? The Easter Bunny. I mean, it maybe, right? Like, is Santa Claus a valid Smite character? I don't know, right? Like, there's always a line where you're like, does this fit? And we always have those conversations when we do gods that are maybe a little bit outside the norm. We have... I think the biggest conversations internally were when we went to the Arthurian Pantheon in the first place, which was overwhelmingly positively received by the community. And when we did Cthulhu, which was the most successful god we ever did. So I think that like the community has responded well to it in the past, but we do know that like there was a I forget what the name of it was, but there was a mobile MOBA that was like when they tried to come to America, they were like, what we need to do is we need to add like Superman and Batman as characters to an otherwise not Superman, Batman MOBA. And it was just kind of weird. So I think that there is like, there's a line, but it's hard to know what that line actually is. Was it Vainglory? I don't remember it being Vainglory. It might've been 100 Hero. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what MOBA it was, but it was something a while back. How do you feel about aspects making it harder for new players to get into the game due to less of a clear identity? So I think that this is a fair feeling. What we find is that people usually, especially once like new players, usually latch on to like a couple characters that they like to play, and they want to play that character, all the time. Doesn't matter what role, doesn't matter, and they just want to like play a character. And I think that to some extent, aspects can help with that. They can allow you to play characters in different roles. And I think that especially when you're a new player, you're just trying to figure out what the heck like the gods do. You don't know what the items do. You're more oftentimes dying because you're standing in the wrong place than you are, I don't know what this character can do to me. So I think that like, yeah, they do add a little bit more of a knowledge gap. I'm not trying to discount that, but I think that new players have so many other things that they're trying to like, that they need to learn to not be awful at a MOBA, that the extra that's added from aspects is relatively low at the beginning of your player journey. aspects are something that most people really don't even like start diving into until they've played the game for quite some time. You don't necessarily see them that much at lower elo ranges because most people don't try them. I think it's something that like I said, I think they're really cool. I think they're a good addition to the game. They definitely do add a slight bit of needing to know more things, but at the same time, there's only 70 gods versus 130 gods from Smite 1 or whatever the numbers are. So there's fewer gods. It's kind of a trade-off. Was it Arena of Valor that had the DC superheroes? That's funny. Can Emir throw snowballs in his aspect? That's a funny idea. I don't know if we have a good Emir aspect idea. I don't know what the designers have been cooking up. If Cthulhu was the most successful release, what is keeping him from Smite 2? Cthulhu is a challenging god because he is effectively two gods. He's got his base god kit, plus he has his ult kit, his ult form. There's just a lot of work that goes into that. There's also just like wanting to make sure that we release him in a way that gets the right amount of attention on him, since we know that he is a successful god. We definitely won't wait forever to do Cthulhu, but it's just been like, he's a harder god to do. When do we fit him into the schedule? Yeah, the madness stuff too. Would we ever consider going back and redefining any of the existing pantheons to include a wider array of gods from various pantheons from the same region like Africa, or would we rather just add a new pantheon? I would say usually we would rather add a new pantheon because it is a little bit more work for us, but we don't want to be seen as being like, what we do is kind of a difficult thing because we interact with a lot of cultures' mythologies, and we want to like do that respectfully and authentically the best we can, right? I mean, obviously we're making a game. We're going to change some stuff because it's a game, but we don't want people to look at it and be like, I feel like these people are abusing my culture, because that would be a shitty thing for us to do. And for us to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw, this is just an example, right? If I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to throw the Aztec and the Mayan and the Incan gods all in the same pantheon because they're kind of from the same place, right? Like that would be pretty culturally insensitive, and that's something that we wouldn't want to do. And like, I can understand, like, it might be easier for players to understand if we had like a pantheon named after that region or whatnot, but it's just one of those things that we kind of draw a line at where we try and be respectful the best we can with what we do. Yeah, Mesoamerican maybe is a good word for that. I don't know. I'm just reading chat. But yeah, I would say, like, generally speaking, we feel like we're better off just saying, no, we'll respect that this is from this pantheon and, move on. Would we consider releasing another cinematic trailer for a big release such as Cthulhu? I'm not sure the cost of those. I always really liked those. Those were a lot of fun. Those were also extremely expensive to do. I think that also just in general, gamer culture has become less about the cinematic and more about the gameplay. Like nowadays, whenever you put out a cinematic, people are like on an award show or something, people are like, oh, why aren't they showing gameplay? Are they hiding something? They're done with the game or whatever. Like, it's just, people get really critical of it, and they're very expensive to do. Like, I think the some of the cinematics we've done, not the Cthulhu one, but some of the earlier ones were like, over $1 million, right? They're very expensive. So I think that, like, when you look at the cost of them versus the return, harder to justify for where we are right now. If we were, massive, maybe there's a world where it makes more sense. But it's a lot of money. So probably not anytime soon. Somebody's asking, how about a comic? We have done comics before. Here I have issues of the Smite comic sitting right here. This is the published by Dark Horse Comics, the Smite Battleground of the Gods comic, written by John Jackson Miller and Eduardo Francisco. But yeah, we do have some comics. They did not sell very well, so not many people really wanted them. We even had like a link to view them from in-game, and very few people clicked on it. I thought they were cool, but not very well received. I think that there's other things that we can do to tell the Smite story. I think that there are people that really appreciate that. But it's just every time we've tried to do it in the past, we're always like, man, that was a lot of work, and not a lot of people engage with it, and it was very expensive. So yeah. Um, mm, can we get a single player campaign? Um, Probably not. I think that like there's things that we are good at, and there are things that we are, uh, not good at. Like not. I mean, we could be good at it, right? But like I think it's just like, what's our wheelhouse? What are the things that people play Smite for? I think you play Smite because you like, PvP, MOBA, action. I think if you want a really great single player game, you're probably going to play a great single player game. So it's one of those things that we've definitely talked about over the past years, and we've had ideas of things that we could do. But it's always just like, man, that would be a ton of work, and I don't think the people that play Smite now are the people that would want it. It's something that you would do to try and bring in a new audience versus continue with your current audience, I would say. Smite Adventures were awesome. Smite Adventures were awesome, but that wasn't a single player thing. That was that was like a co-op PvE thing, which again is still a different thing than what we do. But I think that's closer to the Smite wheelhouse than if we were to try and do a single player campaign. Do I have thoughts on Highguard's reception? I think that it was not set up for success, unfortunately. I think that like it's very hard to release a multiplayer video game in 2026 period. And I think, I think like I've spoken with Jeff. Jeff's a good guy. I think Jeff just liked the game and was like, oh, everybody else is going to like this game. And, he was like, sure, we'll show off this game and it'll be fun and everybody will like it. And I think that unfortunately it just kind of bit him in the butt. I think that if they had tried to do more of a, in 2026, the way that you release video games is you put out a demo on Steam and then you slowly build up enough of a player base that wants to play that demo 24/7 that then you say, okay, now we're going to launch into early access and then we're going to keep building up. And you set expectations really low and then you build it up and become a cool thing, right? Like that is the only way that has consistently worked in 2026. Unless you have billions and billions of dollars. And I think that they took an approach that, maybe would have worked 5 or 10 years ago, but just isn't really working these days unless you have infinite money. Are you going to get skins for the World Cup? Certainly not, because FIFA has a lot of money, and they would probably sue us if we tried to do anything. Killgoon voice pack. Nobody actually wants that. I understand the request. I don't think anybody actually wants that. Oh man, Supervive shuts down in 2 days. That's crazy. I thought that game had a lot of promise. Like when it was in early development, like that was one of those games that we were kind of keeping our eyes on because we, through the industry knew a lot of the people that were working on that game. I thought it was a really interesting game. This is my personal opinion. Whenever I played that game, I was like, that game was fun. And then for some reason, I just didn't want to play another round. I don't know what it was. And that's what makes gaming so hard is that like, you can have a game that's really polished, that's a really fun experience, that then you're like, that was cool. And then you don't want to play it anymore. Whereas like Smite, I've been playing this game for 10 years and I'm still like, next round, let's play another game. Come on, let's do another one. And there's just something that has to be magical about a game like, a multiplayer live service game that keeps people wanting to just keep playing. And it's hard to know why some games have it and some games don't. But I thought Supervive was a very well put together game. I thought the character designs were a little odd. That's very common. A lot of hero driven games have very odd character designs, which I don't understand. But I thought the game itself was quite good. And sad to see it's going. Am I going to play the new Resident Evil or Crimson Desert? I'll probably play the new Resident Evil because I've played all of them, I think. I haven't really heard much about Crimson Desert. I mean, like, I've seen it, but like I have not seen the hype, so I don't know if it's my kind of game. Uh, did I see the Met Kalfu concept on Reddit? I did not, but I'll go back and I'll look for it. I'll write it down so I don't forget. Met Kalfu. Okay. Writing with a Sharpie has to be a crime. This is the only thing I have to write with. I'm sorry. I didn't bring a pencil in today. Uh, let's see. Can we get a sneak peek of the new God page? I think we showed it off on Wednesday. I don't think I'm patched right now. I'm not patched on this computer, so I can't. I'm sorry. How were Bari and Aladdin received in their respective regions? Was there any backlash? As far as we could tell, they were received fine. There wasn't really any backlash. I think that, Bari is a pretty, relatively authentic depiction, and there's less of a, it's less of like an actively, worshipped thing where people are more sensitive about it, more in tune with what it should look like or how it should be. The Aladdin, I think turned out fine. I think that it looked cool. We didn't really get a lot of feedback on it from people in the region. We do have a few people that like are over there that said, seemed fine with it. But yeah, we didn't get a lot of feedback. What was Bari's archer in her art picture supposed to be? Was it something in Aggro's kit? I don't think so. I think it was just, I don't even remember what you're talking about. Princess Bari. Let me look. Yeah, the main thing that changed, archer. Oh yeah, that was just like an early concept thing. That was never, that was just like, that was early art concept. That was not part of the gameplay concept. For those of you who have not seen, I will push this button. I assume this is what he's talking about. So this early concept thing was not something that ever actually made it into the gameplay kit. Kabrakan non-aspect ability targeters are invisible on PlayStation. I've gotten this report. We have not been able to reproduce this. Are they always invisible for you? And if so, do you have any like special settings or things that you've changed from default? Because I'm curious on this because we've seen reports of this, but we have not been able to reproduce that in-house. So like on PlayStations, we just aren't seeing it. Okay. And people are asking about the doc I had that had God and player win rates. I'm not gonna reshare that. Sorry. I think that Jithens might be working on some kind of a leaderboard site like that, but we'll see. Did I see the new Smite comp website? It looks so cool. I have not, unless you're talking about Smite Prime stuff, which Smite Prime stuff is looking good. Jithen's doing good work. This is if you haven't seen Smite Prime, it's got the art tournaments or the art contests on here. I didn't even see who won. Let me look at who won this most recent one. First place was, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I like it. Second place, we had the Fenrir Valentine's card. Very nice. And third place, the Lonely Air. Okay, very nice. Very nice. SmiteComp.com. I don't know this website. I'm not going to have my screen shared in case I blow up something I shouldn't. It's not loading for me. Do I need www? Probably need www. Yeah, it's not loading for me. Sorry. When can we unequip recall skins? That's something we need to do. it's on the to-do list. Do I want to play ranked? I do not. I'm not a ranked player. It's, everybody has their flaws, and mine is I am not a ranked player. I don't have the right mentality for it. I have a lot more fun not doing that. Will limited stuff ever be a thing again? We try to avoid limited stuff. I think generally we feel like it's better to give people a discount on stuff when it first comes out, so you get some benefit if you're around and you take advantage of getting it when it's first out. But we don't like shutting things away to be gone forever. Towards the end of Smite 1, we had moved most limited things into what we called unlimited, so they were always available for a price. And we felt like that did a lot better and felt a lot more fair to people. And it's 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. That means it's time for one more question. Thank you for joining me on my first show back from my illness. Hopefully it was somewhat entertaining and not me just meandering here for an hour. Update tomorrow morning, about 9 o'clock Eastern, you will have Morgan Le Fay and new arena and new starter stuff and new conquest role buffs and all sorts of fun stuff. So check it out. Should be good. Can you make it so you can upgrade Founders Packs on Epic Games? There is a very weird bug on Epic where people who are on NVIDIA, I want to say it's 4000 series cards, have issues buying things. This is a known issue. We don't know why the hell it's happening, and we have not been able to troubleshoot that. But yes, there is a known issue on Epic. If you are playing on Epic with an NVIDIA 4000 series card, you might not be able to buy things. Don't know why that issue is happening. We have looked at it. Sorry about that. There are ways to get, I believe you can, I should check and see if we sell the upgrades through Nexus. Because if we don't, that would be a good workaround. If you just want gem or diamonds, we sell everything through Nexus, which is creator stores. So like you can buy gems or excuse me, you can buy diamonds, you can buy founders editions, and you can benefit streamers, and they get a share of the proceeds. And we're fine with this because, it works out to about the same cut coming to us, and you're also helping a streamer. Those do work on Epic or, on Steam or anywhere else. But I should ask about the upgrade packs. I don't know if we have those. So that could be an option. Okay, I made that note. And I should take a real question. Okay, this is kind of bait. But it's least favorite game mode in the history of Smite. I think the game mode that I feel like could have been awesome, but there was just a little something off, and I don't know exactly what. I think it might have been the restricted champion pool, was Nike's Victory Valley or whatever, the capture the flag one. I feel like that was like so close to being great, but instead it was like fun for like a couple games. So again, I don't remember if it's because like we didn't support enough champion or enough gods, or if it was because just something about like the layout or whatnot. But Nike's Valley of Victory. Yeah, that was like it was like a capture the flag game, and it was so close to being really fun, but there was just something about it that didn't come together. But we had to ship it because we were at the time that we needed to ship something. There's another. I'm gonna answer one more question because this is the way I do this. It was am I tired or burnt out of Titan Talk? I am not burnt out of Titan Talk. I love doing Titan Talk. I am maybe a little bit tired today because I'm recovering from not being here for a week. But no, I love doing this. I love getting a little bit of time to talk to you guys every day or 3 days a week. I think that this is a very important thing that we do to, hang out with everybody. And no, I'm definitely not burned out on Titan Talk. I'm back 3 days a week doing Titan Talk. I love it. So hopefully you guys love it too. And I'll be back again on Wednesday. I think that's it. I think that's it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early for the update. And we will see you on the battleground of the gods. Bye-bye.